This isn't a battle between being vegan versus carnivore or all or nothing. A lot of climate impact comes from relatively small decisions made over and over again, and in this case, especially around beef. Hi, my name is Ryan Panchadsaram. I'm a co-author of Speed and Scale, and I can't wait to see what you do with the Climate Tech Map. Food is a universal system in human life. Everyone eats. Every culture, every community, and every economy depends on food. But our food system today is also one of the largest drivers of climate change. Here's a statistic I think about a lot. Roughly half of all the beef in the US is consumed by just 12% of the population. That shows that sometimes a relatively small number of people and choices can have an outsized impact. If those choices shift slightly over time, or if the systems producing that food get cleaner, the climate impact will be substantial. Animal and fish production already emits billions of tons of greenhouse gases each year, and those emissions are only growing. One big part of the problem is animal feed. We grow enormous amounts of corn and soy just to feed animals for consumption. That swallows up land, water, fertilizer, and energy. Forests get cleared, and those fertilizers for those crops release powerful greenhouse gases. In fact, that's the main driver of emission for chicken and farm fish. But beef is different. The biggest driver of beef's footprint is something called enteric fermentation. It's a technical term for the ways cows burp and fart out methane as they digest their food. Lots of methane, which happen to be an extremely potent greenhouse gas, especially over short periods of time. And when you add manure into the mix, which also releases methane, you start to see why beef has one of the highest climate impacts of any food we eat. It's 7 times more emissions per gram of protein than chicken, and it's 20 times higher than beans. One critical imperative is figuring out how to eliminate enteric fermentation. So in a recent Speed and Scale podcast, you can hear a story about a farmer that notices something strange. The cows that were grazing near the coast and the ones that were eating seaweed were healthier, calmer, and producing more milk. That little curiosity ultimately led to a pretty stunning scientific breakthrough. This little tiny change in what cows were eating led to a massive drop in methane. When the researchers tested various seaweeds, the results were almost hard to believe. In some cases, methane emissions from cows dropped by 80, 90, and in some cases almost close to 100%, with less than just 1% of their diet changed. Questions still remain about how this innovation can scale. But seaweed in feed is the North Star of co-benefit solutions. It improves animal productivity and lowers costs while also reducing emissions. Other innovations could reduce or even eliminate cow-generated methane include altered microbes in cow stomachs, maybe a vaccine that blocks methane production. These are exciting times for cows' tummies. Another imperative is aquaculture. On the fish side, there's a different kind of opportunity. Aquaculture is already the fastest growing source of animal protein in the world. This is really good news. In well-designed systems in the water, what leaves one organism can become food for another. There's a future of fish and shrimp farms where waste doesn't pollute, but instead feeds seaweed, where algae clean the water as they grow, and where the ocean effectively absorbs carbon and recycles nutrients. With innovation and changes to best practices, aquaculture could grow high-quality protein with a fraction of the climate footprint. Here's something that's hard to wrap your head around. Imagine if we could produce animal feed without crops at all. This would eliminate deforestation, taking over ecosystems, and fertilizer runoff. We're starting to see early versions of this future in algae and insect protein used in animal feed. But the true moonshot would be a complete decoupling of animal agriculture from land use. This would entail producing feed in labs or controlled ecosystems. Ecosystems could be restored as carbon sinks while the animals still get fed. It's a fundamental rethinking of how food and land interact. Pretty far out concept. If you're interested in this area, I commend you. Manure management may not be glamorous, but the impact potential is massive. I encourage you to go work on a farm so you can learn. You can even find programs that let you stay there for the summer. Follow the calories and pay attention to the trends for what people are likely going to eat in the future, because that's where the biggest impact will be. As I see it, those looking to make an impact in this area need to understand the science, the economics, and the taste. But really, the green discount's going to be really important because if these things cost more, people aren't going to pick them. I wish more people understood that eating choices aren't binary. This isn't a battle between being vegan versus carnivore or all or nothing. A lot of climate impact comes from relatively small decisions made over and over again, and in this case, especially around beef. People should enjoy their favorite cultural foods and beautiful meals. The goal isn't to give everything up. It's about shifting habits at the margin, replacing some beef some of the time, or choosing products that are produced more sustainably. And the more technology that helps reduce emissions in animal agriculture, the less this has to be about individual willpower or moral decisions. We want the cleaner production to become the default, cheaper, easier, built into the system. This will shift the burden away from personal decision-making toward changes that can scale. When this happens, even small shifts repeated across billions of meals will really add up.